Location: Veltrax Joint Training Base, Galactic Coalition Zone 4. To the gathered alien recruits of the Galactic Coalition Peacekeeper Initiative, humans were the weakest species in the program. They were slower than the Avrani, weaker than the bulked Krarix, less psychically attuned than the Iltari. Even their weapons seemed archaic. Where other species fired precise plasma beams, guided bolts, or neural disruptors, the humans fired primitive, solid projectile weapons. Kinetic rifles, chemical propellants, bullets. And they missed. A lot. It was day 4 of the cross-species marksmanship exchange initiative. Captain Ralshun of the Draken High Command had watched the human squads for the better part of the day. Their formations were adequate. Their discipline was admirable. Their aim? Laughable. Why do they even bother? Muttered Shuktar of the Krarix Legion, folding 2 of his massive arms across his chest. The humans fire but never strike. Always beside the target. Or short. Or too high. I think their targeting modules are defective, added Sealtra of the Athari, eyes glowing in passive amusement. Or maybe their brains are. Or, Ralshun said with a dry hiss, they're still hoping their enemies will just die laughing. That drew a ripple of laughter from the alien observers. Downrange, Sergeant Lennox of Earth's 42nd Expeditionary dropped to one knee, sighted down the scope of his M27A3, and fired 3 shots. Bang. 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 Not a single one hit the center of the target silhouette. 2 hit the ground. 1 hit the upper left corner. The Draken chuckled again. 3 rounds. 3 misses. This is your legendary human marksmanship. Elsewhere on the range, Lieutenant Darwin of the Coalition's training oversight watched silently. He was a neutral species, insectoid, with compound vision, unflappable temperament, and an impeccable record. He wasn't laughing. Not because he understood what was happening, but because he'd seen what happened when humans stopped performing. After the exercise. Sergeant Lennox, barked the Coalition range officer. What is your explanation for your terrible performance? Lennox didn't blink. Permission to answer freely, sir. Granted. I wasn't aiming for the target. The room went still. 3 days earlier, human barracks. Listen up, said Captain Ayres, pacing the rows of human troops. This isn't about points. This isn't about paper targets. This is about showing the rest of the galaxy how we think. Sir, asked Corporal Diaz, you want us to miss? I want you to miss like a human. Think big picture. Make them laugh. Make them relax. Let them think we're clumsy apes with powder guns. He turned toward the tactical board, then tapped a series of diagrams. But when the real op hits, we won't be aiming for what they expect. Present, Veltrax Training Arena. The next day, live-fire simulation began. Coalition trainers deployed mobile holographic enemies that mimicked unpredictable battlefield movement. Most species responded by attempting perfect kill shots. The Krarix launched heavy suppressing fire. The Iltari sent bursts of controlled plasma through center mass. The Draken triangulated to flank and decapitate. The humans? They kept missing. But now they weren't just missing the targets. They were shooting walls, ceilings, corners, and always with a rhythm. Almost as if it were intentional. They're hopeless, Sealtra murmured. Statistically underperforming, added Ralshun. Every projectile is wasted. A species of war my spines. They don't even understand ballistic arc correction. Then came the final round. Joint exercise. Multi-species squad. Urban combat sim. Full sensor integration. They dropped into a cityscape simulation with 16 targets hidden in ambush. Teams spread out. The humans fell back. Let the others take the lead. As the Draken advanced through an alley, a turret sprung from the wall, motion activated. Before it could fire, a ricocheted bullet from earlier slammed into its power relay. Deactivated. The Draken froze. Was that? Another group advanced into a warehouse. As a Krarix reached the middle, the floor gave way, trapdoor ambush. But the mechanism jammed. A spent bullet casing, fired minutes before into the metal floor at a strange angle, had lodged itself into the latch. The trap failed. Human troops swept in. Cleared the building. No casualties. Sealtra's hands were shaking. This is not chance. No, Darwin muttered. This is predictive shooting. End of exercise review. The alien commanders huddled around the tactical replay feed. Dozens of red-highlighted enemy positions had been defeated not by direct fire, but by environmental manipulation. Human bullets had caused a pipe to burst, releasing steam and forcing enemies into a bottleneck. Severed a hanging cable that later swung into a sniper's scope. Bounced twice around a corridor, then shattered a motion sensor. None of these shots were center mass. None of them hit the target. But every single one decided the fight. The aliens were silent now. Ralshun was pale under his scales. They weren't missing, he said hoarsely. They were shaping the battlefield. Back in the barracks, Captain Ayres walked in, tossed the data tablet on the table. Congratulations. The Drake can now think we're magic. Sergeant Lennox grinned. We're not magic, sir. Just stubborn enough to shoot until reality agrees with us. Juno, his spotter, snorted. I mean, it was pretty funny watching that pipe burst. The room laughed. Because it was funny. And it was intentional. Later that night, Coalition debrief. Darwin stood before the High Command. Played the footage. Then said, without preamble, the humans never aimed for the obvious. They aimed for the result. He paused. Then added, and I now understand why they say humans don't fire to kill. They fire to win. Location, Coalition War Simulation Complex, Sector Delta 9. Plus 72 hours after Veltrax incident. It was no longer a laughing matter. The Veltrax exercise report had gone viral across Coalition channels. A simple training simulation where humans missed every shot. And still won the operation without a single friendly casualty. Dozens of alien commanders, previously dismissive, were now revising doctrines. Some called it psychological warfare. Others, environmental combat logic. A few just called it what it was. Scary as hell. But not everyone believed it. Enter, Commander Jaren Vux. Species, Soralax. Occupation, Coalition Tactical Compliance Officer. Belief, humans are only unpredictable because they are undisciplined. He watched the Veltrax recording a dozen times. Then issued a challenge. Let us see how they perform when every variable is controlled. No bounce angles. No physics tricks. No ricochet setups. Just direct confrontation. The Coalition approved his request. Eagerly. Exercise parameters. Operation Mirror Echo. Environment. Sterile urban sim with no reactive architecture. Targets. Simulated hostiles with randomized patrols. Allies. 1 human fireteam plus 3 Coalition elite squads. Restrictions. No environmental triggers. No indirect access to enemy positions. The human squad, Bravo 6. Led by Staff Sergeant Kel Hunt. Calm. Unshaven. Eyes like he had memorized the worst day of someone else's life and carried it in his pocket. He was briefed on the scenario's rules. Then said only, understood. We'll work around it. Mission start, midnight. Coalition squads moved quickly, slicing through corridors, using high-precision energy weapons. The human squad lagged slightly behind. Commander Vux noted this. Sloppy formation, he muttered. See? Without tricks, they default to confusion. Until the first checkpoint breach. Coalition units were caught in a crossfire between simulated drones and turrets. Vux grimaced. Failure to clear corners. But just before the entire advance stalled, Kel's team took a left instead of a right. An entire side route, previously ignored, led them behind enemy lines. They didn't engage the patrols. They taped a high-frequency beeper to a disabled drone chassis and rolled it down a hallway. Sim enemies turned and followed it, straight into a kill zone already mapped by the humans. No bullets fired. Just one detonation. 6 targets down. Vux snapped. This wasn't part of the plan. They were supposed to go forward. Tactical AI calmly responded, Their route was within acceptable mission parameters. Another camera showed the humans wiring smoke dispensers to pipe junctions, blocking optics. They weren't breaching. They were rewriting the battlefield. Checkpoint Bravo, 1236. Coalition teams pinned again. Kell's squad appeared, without warning, above them. No ropes. They had climbed a service wall not marked on the map. Using a folded ladder system, they brought themselves. Where did they even get that? Someone hissed. Kell simply whispered through comms. Heads down. 3 suppressed rounds. 3 hostiles dropped. No one saw the shooters. Post-mission debrief. Commander Vux paced furiously. They violated the spirit of the exercise. Tactical analyst Darwin reviewed the footage. They followed the parameters exactly. Then why does it feel like they cheated? Darwin looked up. Because humans don't fight to meet expectations. They fight to control outcomes. Elsewhere, human barracks. Kell and his team sat around a crate, cleaning rifles. Vux is furious, said Corporal Yao. Good, Kell muttered. Means he noticed. Did we really need the drone trick? Asked Ortiz. Kell grinned. Nope. Then why do it? He shrugged. So the next time we do shoot straight, they'll still flinch toward the decoy. Coalition High Command, Strategic Review Board. The Sorelax submitted a formal complaint. It was rejected. Instead, the board issued a new training protocol. All strategic models must now account for Terran probability logic. When asked for a definition, the response was chillingly simple. Every Terran engagement includes the unknown factor, intended miss. They may shoot a wall now, so it will fall later. They may fire at a light so shadow moves. They may aim for your nerves, not your vitals. Because the target isn't always the target. The real test came a week later. Live combat. Not a drill. A rogue artificial species, the Shard Collective, broke through a border sector. Their drones operated on pure logic, prioritizing visual confirmed threats and predictable firing lines. Coalition forces were overwhelmed. Retreated. Pinned in a shattered city. Vux himself requested human backup, grudgingly. Bravo 6 was deployed. Time to test the lucky misses. Live combat footage. Classified log T-19A. Shard drones surrounded a coalition rally point. Bravo 6 arrived without announcement. Didn't radio for position. Didn't ask for updates. Just started shooting at walls and empty buildings. The Dracan lieutenant in command screamed, "You're wasting ammunition." Kell didn't respond. Until one wall cracked. Collapsed. The debris blocked an entire drone entry point. Another shot, seemingly random, severed a power cable that dropped an EMP node. Short-circuited half the swarm. Then Kell fired at a pipe. No explosion. Not yet. It began leaking gas. 10 minutes later, a drone scout sparked an ignition. Boom. Not on impact. Not when aimed. But when needed. Aftermath. Shard forces retreated. Coalition forces regrouped. Kell's squad walked through the smoke, untouched. One of the alien officers approached him. "You didn't follow the tactical flowchart." Kell looked at him calmly. "We never do." "But you weren't even aiming at the enemy half the time." Kell's smile was thin, tired. "If you're only ever aiming at the enemy, you're letting the battlefield aim at you." Coalition Strategic Bulletin, Emergency Update. Effective immediately, Terran tactics are to be considered nonlinear outcome design. Treat every Terran shot as potentially delayed intent. Do not evaluate performance based on impact. Evaluate it based on what happens next. Back at the range. A new class of recruits watched archived footage. An instructor pointed at a shot that missed high. "Rookie mistake," one alien cadet asked. The instructor just smiled. 5 seconds later, in the footage, a light fixture falls. Crushes a drone. The cadet's eyes widened. "Oh." The instructor turned. "They don't shoot to hit. They shoot to change the future." Location: Coalition Tactical Analytics Division, Forward Command, Sector 13. The Veltrax incident had transformed Terran marksmanship from a joke into legend. Every major military archive now had a folder titled Non-Targeted Human Firing Solutions, also known unofficially as Ghost Shots. For weeks, analysts tried to explain it, simulate it, copy it. Some called it tactical intuition. Others swore it was algorithmic prediction. But no one, not even the humans, could explain it the same way twice. Commander Jaren Vux filed his second formal objection. Human battlefield logic is incompatible with coalition operations. Their success cannot be reproduced, only feared. In response, the coalition issued a challenge. If their enemies feared it, let's see what happens when they try it themselves. The copycats. The Scarn Collective, technologically advanced, strategically conservative, had been watching the humans closely. Too closely. During a joint exercise with coalition allies, the Scarn introduced a new combat AI, Project Mirrorfire. Its core protocol, simulate Terran indirect fire behavior. It would fire shots not at targets, but at influence vectors. Use random angle bounces. Attempt timing-based threat neutralization. It even spoke in simulated Terran phrases like, "That'll hit in 5. Let the wall do the work. Don't aim, anticipate." The AI fired its first 300 rounds during a battlefield sim. 294 missed. 5 ricocheted into friendly units. 1 hit its own fusion pack and detonated. Mission status: catastrophic failure. Meanwhile, Bravo 6 watched from the balcony. Ortiz chewed on a ration bar. "You think they'll try again?" Kel Hunt leaned on the railing. "They might. But they don't get it." "What don't they get?" Kel didn't answer right away. Then, quietly, "They think it's about the shots." "It's not. It's about the silence between them." The real lesson. 3 days later, a field report came in from Krathus Outpost. A squad of Scarn troops attempted to replicate the human scatter method during a real incursion. They pre-fired into walls, ducts, overhead walkways. The enemy, a swarm species known as the Thren, moved through unimpeded. Why? Because the humans didn't shoot to shoot. They shot because they'd read the map, predicted behavior, and timed movement. The Scarn? They fired by template. No intuition. No improvisation. No soul. Command debrief. Darwin, the insectoid tactician from earlier, stood before a room full of generals. "Imitating a move is not the same as understanding its purpose," he said, replaying footage of Scarn failures. They adopted the form, not the function. He played a comparison video. Human. 1 round fired into a wall. 10 seconds later, enemy drone emerges behind it, drops instantly. Scarn. 6 rounds fired. Nothing happens. They get flanked and wiped. Darwin paused the footage. Humans are not unpredictable because they're wild. They're unpredictable because they understand what you won't expect to matter. New Coalition Training Manual entry. Human indoctrinated shooting. Do not imitate unless trained directly. Never assume a miss is a failure. Assume it is an instruction. Look around. Something else is about to fall. Something new begins. On the planet Harvos, where an old battlefield had been repurposed for training, a new human unit deployed. Not Bravo 6. This was Whiskey Squad. They weren't like Kel's people. Younger. Sloppier. Less poetic. And they were instructed to train coalition officers. Each alien was assigned to shadow a human trooper and observe. Sealtra of the Iltari floated beside Private Rain, who was humming as he fired into a pile of rocks. "Why that rock?" she asked. Rain grinned. "Because a drone will use it for cover in 3-2. A Thren drone leapt behind the rock and caught a pre-fired bullet to the jaw. Sealtra made a sound her species typically reserved for witnessing birth. Still, doubts remained. A Draken general asked publicly, "What happens when human improvisation fails? What happens when their chaos isn't enough?" Kel Hunt responded in a private memo, which leaked days later. "You don't get it. We're not improvising. We just plan further ahead than you think we should. We shoot at something now, so we don't have to shoot later. The first time they didn't shoot. A mission on Nerex 4 required all squads to breach a subterranean hive. The coalition prepared a blitz assault. The humans didn't fire. Not one shot in the first hour. Instead, they moved. Left signs. Triggered rocks to fall. Cut power. Deployed reflectors. Confused the enemy. Let them get scared. Then, one shot. A flare. Launched into a mirrored tunnel wall. Light refracted everywhere. The enemy, who hunted by shadow, lost their minds. They tore each other apart in panic. When the humans finally fired, it was to finish what had already unraveled. Back at command, a coalition general turned to Darwin. "This is madness." "No," he replied. "This is strategy without ego. They don't need to look like the best. They just need to be the ones still standing." Alien cadets begin to adapt the right way. The next training cycle didn't teach how to aim like a human. It taught how to think like one. First exercise, shoot nothing. Cause impact anyway. Many failed. One succeeded. A Krarix cadet threw a rock, not to hit anything, but to rattle a ventilation shaft. The echo masked their team's movement. Later, an instructor asked why they hadn't used their weapon. The cadet shrugged. Didn't need it. That night, Kel Hunt wrote one line in his journal. Finally, one of them got it. Location: Coalition Deep Space Sensor Array, Outpost Echo 7. Unusual weapon signatures detected. Partial kinetic. Non-standard. Trajectory suggests predictive fire patterns. Non-linear, delayed effect. Matches 78% of human battle doctrine. Type H, ghost shot logic. The operator blinked at the readout. Then slowly tapped the alert. Warning: unknown hostile. Tactical signature: human-like. Earth High Command, 2 hours later. The transmission was brief. Simple. Chilling. Someone out there learned to shoot like us. Introducing the Vekari Swarm. Not an insect race. Not AI. Something worse. A hive species, photosynthetic, instinctive, and recently uplifted via stolen tech from 3 separate species, including Terran battle footage archives. They had no spoken language. No broadcast intelligence. But they had memory sharing. And they had seen Bravo 6. And they remembered. First encounter, Syndral Station. Human recon deployed expecting primitive pack tactics. Instead, the Vekari had laid traps. Ricocheted bullets that struck door controls, locking the squad inside a killbox. Explosive munitions that missed on purpose to activate fire suppression foam at the wrong moment. Shots that sounded errant, but created echoes masking the Vekari advance. Sergeant Emmer's squad was wiped in 7 minutes. Their last recording? They're doing what we do. But they're not guessing. They're predicting. Anticipating us. This is what it feels like to be on the other side. Kel Hunt's reaction. He read the report in silence. Liao paced. They're copying our exact moves. It's like they studied us frame by frame. Kel shook his head. No. They're not copying. They're improvising. Ortiz looked stunned. That's us. That's our edge. Kel muttered. They've caught up. He looked at the TAC map. There's only one way to beat someone who thinks like us. Liao leaned forward. How? Kel's eyes were distant. We stop thinking like ourselves. Operation Backfire. Human Command issued the order to Bravo 6. Engage the Vekari in controlled skirmishes. Do not win. Do not lose. Misdirect. The mission wasn't about killing enemies. It was about teaching them the wrong lesson. Skirmish site, Nerthus Minor. Bravo 6 engaged lightly, firing chaotic, deliberately irrational shots. They missed in directions with no tactical logic. They ran into open areas, then doubled back for no reason. They triggered their own traps. The Vekari mimicked everything. Drones began firing into irrelevant terrain. For 12 hours, the battlefield turned into a ballet of nonsense. until a Vekari cluster blew itself up trying to bounce rounds off an impossible angle that never worked. Kel whispered into his mic. They learned the chaos. Now they're choking on it. But it wasn't over. The Vekari adapted. Again. 2 weeks later, during the siege of Meridian Fault, human units found themselves in an exact inversion of their tactics. The Vekari didn't just mimic movement. They baited it. Left obvious ghost shots for humans to misinterpret. Created ambush zones that punished intuition. Hacked targeting drones to simulate human misfire behavior, causing allies to make incorrect assumptions. Ward's squad walked into a trap that looked exactly like one they'd set 2 years ago. 6 Kia. Juno's last words? They're not copying anymore. They're mirroring. Coalition panic. This wasn't a simple escalation. This was a collapse of doctrine. Entire species who had just started adopting human-style tactics suddenly found them turned against them. Ghost shot thinking became a liability. Mimic warfare was too dangerous now. Only humans, those who invented it, could adapt fast enough. Earth's answer: go deeper. The Terrans initiated Protocol Stray God, a black book training method last used during the siege of Caldera Prime. It taught not how to fire unpredictably, but how to weaponize dissonance. Kel and Bravo 6 reassigned. They weren't told where. Just this. No more predicting the future. You're going to invent a battlefield that doesn't exist until you shoot. Whiskey Squad's final recording. Before they vanished into a Vekari stronghold. They think they've mastered our chaos. But they don't know where it comes from. We don't fire wild because it's effective. We fire wild because we've stared at the abyss of predictability. And chose to be the kind of species even the abyss flinches from. New battlefront, Atrox Delta. No walls. No terrain. Just empty plains. The Vekari had chosen the site, believing simplicity would neutralize human indirect warfare. Kel's team landed without announcement. They didn't bring drones. No tech. Just rifles. And silence. The Vekari fired first. Dozens of ghost shot patterns. Echoes. Ricochets. Traps. They covered the field in mirrored logic. Then they waited. Nothing happened. No collapse. No ambush. Just wind. And then, one shot. From Kel. It hit a rock. No immediate effect. Until 4 minutes later. A sonic relay buried underground vibrated, bounced the sound, and caused a delayed chain detonation across a nearby Vekari tunnel. The entire flank buckled. Then came the second shot. Into empty sky. 10 seconds later. A comm satellite glitched, bounced a signal into a sensor field, triggering a friendly fire accident among Vekari recon squads. They used our logic, Kel said. So we used their assumption of our logic, against them. Battle summary, Atrox Delta. Terran ammo fired, 9 rounds. Confirmed enemy casualties, 500 plus. Human losses, 0. Notable notes, no direct kills. All indirect, delayed, or misattributed. Post-Battle Coalition Council Review. Darwin summarized the encounter. The Vekari tried to mimic the human unpredictable. They didn't realize. True unpredictability isn't chaos. It's art. He paused the video at the frame of Kel walking across a silent field littered with the results of missed shots. The humans aren't just fighters. They're composers. They're conducting symphonies in bullet time. Location, Event Horizon Tactical Sphere, Edge of Known Space. It started with a simple phrase on every coalition channel. They've begun to anticipate our uncertainty. The Vekari weren't just mimicking now. They were pre-disrupting human patterns. Anticipating likely misfires. Planting false environmental cues. Ghost baiting with fake trap architecture. Entire operations unraveled before the first shot was fired. One simulation report read, "Humans now hesitate. And when they hesitate, they become just another species." Kel Hunt sat alone, staring at the floor. Across the hangar, Liao and Ortiz loaded gear. Neither spoke. Juno's name had been removed from the roster. Too many ghosts. Not enough answers. Kel finally stood. Time to end it. End what? Liao asked. He looked up at her. Our advantage. Operation Last Trace. Authorized by Earth High Command. Signed by Coalition Supreme Tactical Court. Co-signed by 3 alien races who swore they would never do this again. Objective: fire a single final round, one that could never be copied, traced, modeled, or repeated. Target: unknown. That was the point. The weapon: Delilah. Built in secret. A kinetic rifle forged from zero-resonance alloys, invisible to scanners. No scope. No sights. Because you couldn't aim it. You could only believe it would land. The bullet? Handmade. Obsolete. Metal-jacketed. Fired from a position off-grid. No records. No trajectory path. No ballistic curve. A bullet without context. A bullet that shouldn't exist. Final briefing. Kel stood before his team, half of them already marked inactive. "We're not firing at the enemy," he said. "We're firing at every record of what came before." Liao raised an eyebrow. "Like deleting the tactic?" "No. Worse." He pointed at the mission file. "We're not letting them predict us anymore. We're erasing the pattern that lets prediction exist." Ortiz muttered, "You're talking nonsense now." Kel's voice was flat. "Good. Execution site, Dead Planet X-114, uninhabited, cold. No sound. No observers. No cameras. Only Bravo 6. And Delilah." Kel didn't wear armor. No HUD. No tech. He held the rifle, breathed out. Fired. A soundless shot. Into empty space. Nothing happened. At least, not right away. But then, the Valkyrie faltered. Fleet-wide. Across a dozen sectors. Their tactical units began conflicting. Reflexes misaligned. Mimic protocols looped. Some units refused to engage. Others walked into fire zones, intentionally. Their collective logic? Broken. No one could understand why. Even the humans didn't know what the bullet hit. Just that it was gone. Post-strike coalition report. Subject: battlefield status, post-Delilah event. Valkyrie offensive reduced by 87% within 48 hours. No retaliation. No communication. Intelligence consensus: they lost the shape of human combat. They cannot see the moves anymore, because the humans have stopped playing the game. Kel's personal log, final entry. They kept thinking we were unpredictable. We weren't. We were unwilling to be expected. So we stopped following logic, even our own. We fired a shot that had no outcome. And it ended their ability to follow us. Because now, they're not scared of what we do. They're scared we might do nothing. 10 years later. On a distant training range, a Krarix cadet asks his instructor, "Why do humans teach snipers to miss?" The old Iltari veteran, now retired, chuckles. "Because once, they fired a bullet." He pauses. Then shrugs. "Actually, no one remembers where it went. But we all remember what stopped." Epilogue. Somewhere in deep space, a rock spins endlessly. Embedded in it, a single, old-style bullet. Still hot. Still humming. Still misunderstood. Because it wasn't the shot that mattered. It was who dared to fire it without knowing why.